All right, welcome to Radical Hospitality. My name is Zeke Freeman. I'm the owner of Root Architecture and Development. This show is about exploring all things in architecture and development and hospitality and how we can kind of elevate the level of service that we're doing in those industries. I'm here today with Skyler Moore. He's one of the partners with Modus Real Estate. They are a vertically integrated brokerage, development company, and title company. Skyler and I have been working together the past year on Base Camp. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Modus, which he is a real estate brokerage, one of the partners with that. They do over $500 million of sales every year, 300 plus doors, longtime client, partners of ours, one of the most creative and innovative development companies I know of. So I appreciate you coming in today, Skyler, and to chat a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Zeke. Thanks for having us on.
Why don't you, if you could, just kind of give us a little bit of your backstory, how you got involved in real estate and building up Modus.
So went to college, University of Iowa, studied finance, graduated in '06. Of course, you started looking for a job about 2007, 8. We all know how that was, right? Total disaster, but probably turned out to be one of the best things ever. Wanted to be in finance and Merrill Lynch and investment banking and all that kind of stuff, and just wasn't in the cards. So kind of had to go back to the roots and spent some time down in Mexico and Costa Rica and kind of having fun, which was probably a good thing. And then had a good friend and cousin that were here in Denver. They kind of identified, hey, it's a good time in the real estate market, although it's still pretty negative, to kind of look into the foreclosures. So packed my bags up from Cabo and came to Denver and literally started like 2 days later at the public trustee sales, where on Tuesday we'd have about 70 properties come out. You'd spend all day Wednesday, driving by them, looking in the windows or knocking on the door and, offering people some money if you could go through and kind of identify what was going to be needed to be done with the property. Then we would purchase them, fix them up, sell them. Kind of funny because even now in our market, everyone's a little negative on the sales and everything. And I think our average is still, call it 30 days or less. And at that time, if you could sell within 6 months or less, that was pretty strong. Yeah, I'd say our average showings was like 50 showings before you'd sell a house. That's kind of how we started and did that for years, 4 or 5 years before, kind of seemed really around 2012 or 13. The market really started to gain momentum before anyone knew it, if that makes sense. And it was just kind of out of nowhere where properties would start sitting for less than 30 or 45 days, and you would get like a pretty wild price. And really that momentum didn't stop for almost a decade, which was pretty wild. So we had to learn to adapt, which is what we're going to have to do in any real estate market, right? But at that time, we were just doing the fix and flip. Then all of a sudden, the prices started getting bid up so high that because of the land value for new development, because the prices had increased enough, we had to get into that, right? So you start doing townhomes or new single families or duplexes. So you really had to study zoning and learn all kinds of different ins and outs of working with the city. So that's kind of how we got into it and started, and everything just kind of snowballed right at that point. We figured, why should we have, someone else's brand out there? Why not have our own brokerage? So we started that. Same thing on the mortgage side, same thing, title stuff. So it's kind of just been really playing the cards we've been dealt realistically. There was never a grand plan or, this is exactly how things are going to work, because usually it doesn't go that way. But so that's kind of how we got here.
I think of with like all of the foreclosures, the biggest thing there is like you're going in and you're learning to solve it.
Oh, yeah.
And then I've seen you guys do that with Modus as you've kind of scaled and leveled that up. As we've looked at larger development deals, the amount of pieces that you now have in your team to do just that, solve complex problems.
When they all work together too, it helps, right? Like when you're on the brokerage side and you're showing houses, or, we have between here and Austin, around 100 brokers now, you have a really good pulse on the market for not only what price points they're selling, but also what people are looking for, right? Because it has shifted a little bit on design and where they want primary bedrooms and just Jack and Jill bathrooms work and don't. They all kind of come together versus just, I'm only a developer, I'm only this, right?
Yeah, a lot of people think about being vertically integrated as construction, architecture, development. You guys kind of have your own model of being vertically integrated where you have a cluster of services that you're solving a bunch of problems. Yeah, maybe talk a little bit about what those are and how each of those developed, and then how you're utilizing those to solve problems.
Yeah, well, like I said, we started with the fix and flip / development piece. So we had that going. I'd already had my real estate license. I actually got it when I was in college. At that point, we started Modus as a brokerage, and it was really it was he, Ben, and I, and a couple of other brokers. That was it. From there, they were involved in the mortgage piece prior to that. So that was an easy one to bring in. And then the other stuff really just comes out of poor experience. Title, we had companies we use for years and good relationships. We like having control of the process. So that way, if something isn't going well, we can try to identify it and try to do it better. We're always trying to evolve our marketing on the brokerage side. Things are really changing as far as social media and things go. You have to stay ahead of that, I think. And it's going to play out. It'll be interesting how it plays out because there is a varying age range in brokerage, especially. There's just people, I think, stuck in their ways of, I've always done it this way, so this is the way that it's done.
I mean, and things with Modus brokers is like most of them that I've had experience with also are coming in and involved because, you guys are also on the development side and also these other areas. Seem to be a little bit more knowledgeable.
Yeah, I think it's attractive just because I think at the end of the day, we try to practice what we preach, right? And so we actually own property. They're into some of the restaurant stuff. We have this glamping deal. We do development. We do fix and flips, have buy and holds. So I think if you're a broker, right, and you want to be in real estate, it's probably attractive to work with people that are doing it versus just kind of, hey, come here and learn how to buy and sell. And I get it's expensive and it's hard, but I don't know how many brokers even own their own house, maybe half. I think it's hard for people to want to work with someone that if they're not actually doing it.
Yeah, I mean, real estate's great. It's a place to earn money, but ultimately, like long-term wealth, you got to put it back into assets. Hey, if you're liking this interview so far, we would love for you to share this with your friends. And please leave a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. This really helps us out a ton and helps other people like you find out about it as well. Now back to the episode. Let's talk a little bit about this Guanella Base Camp.
My new job.
Your new job. We were just talking about this. So let's wind it back. Where did this idea come from? Was it property first and then here's what we can do? Or do you guys have a vision of this is what we're looking for and going and find?
So I'm really into fishing and have been all over Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Montana, all over. Have a little travel trailer. And so I've stayed in a lot of just different campgrounds and glampgrounds and totally out in the wilderness and some of the national forest lands and just kind of all over. So I've seen a pretty diverse spots, I guess, of where to stay. So, of course, I ran my mouth to my cousin Charlie about this and how great they are. And I was running the numbers and they're making all this money doing it. And he was like, oh, I happen to know this piece of ground at the base of Guanella Pass. Has a creek, a Geneva Creek running right through it. It's beautiful. 9 acres. There's kind of some existing camping there. We should take a look at it. So, of course, we go and it is awesome. I mean, it's probably, I don't know if there's another spot in Colorado that's at the base of a major pass with a river running through it, aspen trees all around you. I mean, it's kind of like in the middle of nowhere, old school Colorado before anything was commercialized, right? It's in this small little town and we fell in love with it. So we put it under contract. And then, of course, this is great, right? Our experience of due diligence and understanding zoning and water rights and wells and just different things that are even a little bit different than doing things in the city. We ended up finding out that it's in Park County, Colorado, which is one of the largest counties literally in the country. It's like bigger than the size of Delaware, I believe. It's huge. They didn't have any camping zoning, and it's pretty common in the state from what we found that's just the way it is. So it was zoned commercial, but it wasn't actually zoned for camping or glamping. And that's when we called you. Zeke, we've got this beautiful property. We think we can do A, B, and C with it, but it's not zoned for it. That's where we went and sat with, the county administrators, had those meetings, and they let us know which it was. It was going to be a long process to go through and get this thing fully rezoned. Had us do it as a planned urban development, as you know, and we had to go through 6 meetings over 8 months, give or take. It was about a year process to get this thing fully approved and rezoned. And that's good and bad, right? I mean, it's definitely a huge barrier of entry for doing this. The other thing was water rights, right? Water in Colorado especially out west, is a big, big thing. So we had to purchase those shares. We purchased all there was left. So we're oversupplied, which is good. We figured water's probably not going down in value. So just knowing all these things and putting this all together was a long process, but I think for us financially, it'll be good because it is a huge barrier of entry, especially in Colorado anymore. To be able to find a place to do camping and glamping is challenging.
One of the things that I was impressed with the strategy, or thought was really good on this, you guys had kind of the insight to put this under contract contingent on plan unit development approved. By doing that, you added a lot of value, would be done on that. I kind of assume, in the market, there's guys that are kind of your mom and pops that have had old campgrounds, a little bit like this kind of Whiskey Charlie. They just went out and built them, but maybe they don't titled right. Or there's, bigger developments that are done and out at a scale. But if someone was looking to come in and do this type of project, would you come in, if you were to do it again, on new land, or would you look for something like this that, is almost like a fix and flip, figuring out what the problems are and solving them?
I think it kind of depends who you are and what you want to get into. If you're wanting to get into the glamping world, and this is kind of my first go at it, so I'm no expert by any means, but I can tell you building one from scratch is pretty capital intensive, and it's very time intensive. I think we're going to walk in with some pretty strong equity, right? But we've also, by the time this is all said and done, we'll be 3 years and millions of dollars into this thing. And we're going to have to carry it for, call it 6 months with no revenue, right? Some pretty significant payments. So at the end of the day, I think that's one play, and it's a great one for some walk-in equity. But on the flip side of that, I think finding a property that already is generating revenue, there's maybe some room to go in and improve on what's there, is a great way to go if you want to know exactly how much money it's going to be out of pocket. Hey, we know it's going to be $3 million purchase. We've talked to the bank. We can do 20% down. So, we've got $600,000 out of pocket, but the revenue already covers our payment, plus we're making some money, and then we can improve the thing as we go. The other thing that I find is, this is not our full-time job, so we're going to have on-site managers. They're going to get compensated well. I mean, it's work, but I think it's pretty enjoyable work. If I didn't have young kids, I'd probably do it myself, honestly. But especially if you're working it yourself, I think you can be really successful in this, because there's just a lot of money that goes out to cleanings, maintenance, and landscaping, watering flowers, and all the things that are involved in the process. In a roundabout way, I don't know if that answers your question.
What were some of the big hurdles and unknowns that came out of this particular project that you guys have had to kind of work through and figure out?
Earthwork is crazy. I think we ended up bringing in roughly like 350 to 400 semis of different fill material, because on this site there wasn't a legal pond. So we had to fill it in, starting with huge boulders, and work our way up as the engineers told us what to do with all the different sediments, material that we needed. And I think that ended up in the neighborhood of $350,000 or so, which is pretty crazy when you think about that. We're currently dealing with drilling a well. There's some pretty big boulders, as you can imagine, at the base of a mountain pass. Dealing with that, not that that's unexpected, but there's just constant kind of challenges that come up that you have to navigate through. Another one's power. Where this site was before, we're going with hot tubs and just some nice amenities to try to maximize the experience and dollar as well for us. And you need to bring in phase 3 power, which is doable. That's another process, working with power companies. We've all kind of been through that.
And water rights, even do that well. I know that was another sub-process that ran parallel, and we're going to end up putting in like a little mini water treatment facility.
And like I said, we bought the last shares that were even available, right? So in theory, if somebody downstream from us wanted to do something and had to purchase water rights, they'd literally have to buy them, us or another shareholder.
I feel like in Colorado, that would be the industry to get in, is figure out these water rights.
Michael Berry, who called the 2008 downturn.
Okay.
That's actually after 2008 deal. That's what he got into, is water. Mm-hmm. That's what he does.
What will the insight look like? What do you kind of anticipate in terms of total project?
Sure. We took a little bit of a leap of faith. So we're on the 285 side, and where we are, it's high traffic, but it's not like a huge destination like your Breckenridge and Keystone and some of these spots, right? But I think that also plays to our strengths. So we worked with a pretty top-notch marketing company who came up with a whole theme and design for us. So it's called Lost Fork Base Camp, and it's because the Geneva Creek used to actually be the fork that fed into another river. And at the end of the day, they bring in water now from Lake Dillon up in Summit County underneath the mountain. and ours feeds into it. So we're the Lost Fork of the South Platte Tech.
Oh, that's it. So that's new to me. I've seen a couple emails come across.
Yeah.
Lost Fork. So Guanella Base Camp is no longer.
Correct.
We're going with Lost Fork.
Yeah, people know how to spell Guanella. We had all the marketing people tell us all this, right?
Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay.
Which is true though, right? Those are things that like you really do have to think about. So we have a really top-notch web designer. He did all the SEO searches for us and
Who's
competition.
doing this?
His name's Brian. I think he's called Interactive Solutions. This is all he does is Glamp.
Yeah.
But I mean, we sat down with them 2 months ago for a few hours and searched like, what's our competition and what are the search results? What are people stroking in? And like all this with the marketing team to come up with the name, how we're going to position it. Some of our slogans are go nowhere fast, being that we're less than an hour from Denver, but you legitimately feel like you're in the middle. And we're also going with kind of the old school, this is old school Colorado before it got commercialized. So like this is a space, whether, you know, you wanted just to read, whether you wanted to do some artwork, whether you wanted to go on hikes, mountain biking, we've got 4 reservoirs, lots of rivers, there's fishing. I mean, there's really, the activity is endless in the winter. There's the old Geneva ski basin that's abandoned where you can skin up, go down. They've got tons of snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. I mean, it's literally endless, but it's not a high, like, commercialized deal. Like, there is no Starbucks. Our town literally has 4 to 10 houses, and that's it. So,
yeah, it's going to be a great experience, you know.
For sure.
We're getting out. I think you're more connected to opportunities to get in nature. It's an easy spot to set up a family, have a cabin already ready, tons of outdoor activities.
So we set that up, and then this year we're doing 9 RV spots, community kind of like hangout area with like a big covered deck, and you've got your cornhole and all the games, and it's a pretty awesome experience that you just don't really get at any campground or really anywhere that I've been around. And then we've got 9 cabins that are targeted at just people who I think want to be outdoors, but also have those comforts, right? So you do have your own bathroom and shower and a hot tub and a sitting area. And then on the other side, this year, we've got 9 kind of designated tent spots. So for people who want more of the rugged outdoor experience, they can do that, right? They want to bring their RVs, they can do that. They want to stay in the cabin, they can do that. And then we do have the right to build 9 tree houses over on the other side. But that's a pretty intense like process that we just weren't going to be able to get to in the first year.
So if people wanted to check that out, is the website done and up yet?
It will be. It's going to be lostfork.co for Colorado. So
Okay.
all one word, LOSTFORK.
So what do you think timelines for?
I think we'll be up and running probably late July this year. So that's July of 24. Feel free to reach out. I mean, there's been, again, I joke that it's my job because we're working with CampSpot as well as the website people. So they have the software, right, of showing your spots and the interactive map and pictures of what's available and booking out the calendar and what is the pricing and does it change with the holiday and, oh, there's only one left, so we're going to increase the price here. And it has all of your reports and the cleaning for your staff of who's checking in today, who's checking out, who's coming in, right? So same thing when you come into the entrance. There's beautiful signage from the marketing company and also like the QR code. So somebody's driving by, oh, is this spot available? Cool, I can do phone. Oh, there's a cabin over here, but it's 8 p.m. It'll still check them in, send them a code. They can walk in. So just doing all of those things in today's world with the technology that I think you need to in order to be successful. They interact with Airbnb and Bookings.com and VRBO and all the platforms that you think you need to be on to book as much revenue as you can. That was a whole learning process too.
So is the marketing company, are they also going to be management or
no,
bringing on a
separate management? It's a couple where we have a full-time caretaker's cabin on site. So they live there, let's call it a typical day, wake up, walk over, check on the grounds and cleaning everything, any maintenance or cleanup, watering the flowers, making sure everything looks great, interacting with the guests, answering questions that they've got. We're all the community fire pit, so hosting that, doing the s'mores, all the things that you do, maintenance stuff, right? Turnovers, because that's a challenge. Like probably one of the bigger challenges is when you're in, pretty kind of the middle of nowhere, having a reliable cleaner is a big deal, right? If somebody doesn't show up and you've got 4 cabins to turn over and it doesn't happen, rightfully so, like some people are going to be pretty upset, right? When you get a phone call and you're an hour away, like that's a bit of an issue. We're going to have challenges, I'm sure, but we're trying to do everything we can to.
So what do you see as kind of next for you guys?
As far as the market and stuff goes, we obviously know rates are high. At some point they'll be coming down. When? And I don't think anybody really knows, right? Yeah. But hopefully, in the next 12 months, it seems like things are actually getting better. And from what I've seen, it kind of depends on your price points. But we'll continue to do our projects in Denver. We've always had the philosophy of building at more of quote unquote affordable price points. We say under 700, which I know that sounds kind of asinine, but like
That's Denver.
yeah, 5 to 700 is like kind of affordable housing, right? So we try to stay for the most part in that price point. I'm hoping that we'll get some better numbers for rentals. I'd like to buy some more rentals. I don't think the numbers are that great for them right now. You're still paying a pretty high price with high interest rates, and rents are holding okay. I wouldn't say they're doing great, but I think we're going to see an increase because insurance is a real thing, especially in Colorado, right? We just had an insurance class at the brokerage the other day, and insurance has literally tripled last like 5 years. It's a real number now. There was a vote. I didn't think it was a good idea, but repealing the Gallagher Act, which basically limited the tax of a property. So taxes have already doubled, and I think they're going to continue to go up quite a bit. So I think that's going to drive up rents. Landlords are not just going to eat that cost, right? It's going to get passed on to consumers. So I think there's going to be a good time in the next year or two to buy some rental property and have that be a good play as well. And then we'll kind of see how this glamping deal goes. It'd be fun to do another phase. And if it goes great, we would definitely be open to doing another, couple of these in different locations across either Colorado or another state as well.
Yeah. So this is really a portion of y'all's portfolio, projects, kind of heavy on probably what you say, attainable housing and
Sure.
townhome development, maybe a little bit in long-term holds and rental, and then a smaller portion, call it in the hospitality. I know we've done a couple of boutique hotel things, done a couple of rental things. Where do you see that segment of the market in terms of Modus's activities? Is this going to kind of play this one out, see how it goes, and then other ones, or?
I think we'll see how it goes. I know just from being around, not myself personally, but the short-term stuff is getting more challenging from not only a regulation standpoint, but realistically, when you start getting into lodging tax and commercial tax and all and cleaning fees and everything, it doesn't take long for short-term rentals to not make sense. I get all the arguments for both sides, right? I get the people who live in the communities and they don't want it. And I think they're solving a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't really know how great it is if it's just hotels only, right? They're the only game in town. And like I know for a fact, right, you get into Summit County or some of these places, $700-800 minimum a night is kind of where it is, right? So if all the short-term rentals go away, I don't know, all of a sudden is it $1,000 to stay at the Best Western?
If people wanted to get in touch with you, who are kind of your ideal clients that you're working with these days and people that you're looking to connect with?
As far as clients and stuff go, realistically, we work on fix and flip stuff or developments and things like that. I do some buying and selling. I honestly give a lot of that away at this point. But I will work with people kind of to plan what they're trying to do. Like I live in Evergreen. I love working with people in Evergreen. So things like that. But if anyone wants to get a hold of me, feel free to send me an email at Skyler, SKYLER at Modus, MODUS realestate.com.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming in. It was great to chat with you today. It's been great working with you.
Yeah, thanks.
Look forward to knocking out some more deals down the road. So
yeah, cheers, man.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Radical Hospitality Podcast. If you learned something new or you found this entertaining, please leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you have a project that you're excited about and you're ready to talk to an architect, visit us at therootteam.com and schedule your free virtual consult with me or one of my team members. That's therootteam.com.